weren't able to join. So before we get started covering sort of the details of the proposal process for faculty-led study abroad programs, I'm just going to introduce myself and give Hayden the opportunity to introduce herself as well. So I am Alexandra Nieves. I go by Allie. I'm the Director of Education Abroad here at UCA. I'm going into my third year of working on all kinds of programs, including faculty-led study abroad programming here. So today we're going to focus on talking about lots of kind of the details, high level, when it comes to what it takes to propose a program and resources that you can use as a faculty member when you're thinking of proposing a study abroad program. So Hayden, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so like Ali said, I'm the Education Abroad Advisor, and I also oversee our National Student Exchange program. So I'm going into my second year here. So I'm super excited to help you guys on the proposal process, and just let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, awesome. And before we get started, I would definitely love to hear from each of you what you're hoping to get out of this meeting and a little bit about your area of focus, just so that, as we go through the presentation, I can make sure to address any questions you have, any areas of concern, or if there are particular things that you're hoping to get out of this meeting, really focus in on those. So if you wouldn't mind, yeah.
I'll go ahead and go. And hi, I thought for some reason I thought this started at 1:40 instead of 1:30. That's my bad. Um, I'm Valerie Kuchar and I teach in the school counseling program. And I know I recently met with Alexandra because we're going to try to join a couple other programs in our college who did a study abroad just a year ago, and they're planning on doing one in 2026. But I wanted to join this just in case craziness happens and that other one blows up. I really don't know much about the study abroad process. I never went on one when I was in college. So I'm here just to open up my ears and learn.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm Tovino Parampi. I'm one of the faculty in communication science and disorders, so speech pathology. So I'm interested in study abroad. So this my aim for joining today is to know about what's expected, or it's more like informational ideas. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you both. I'm excited to have you here and definitely hoping that we can answer your questions and just give you some more basic information about the proposal process. So we'll go ahead and jump in. On our website, when you go to the Study Abroad website and you click on faculty information or faculty resources, you'll see that we have two buttons. We have a button for first-time faculty and we have a button for returning faculty. And essentially, we do have, oops, my mouse is going crazy. Let's see if I can figure out how to go back. There we go. We do have a slightly different process for programs that are being proposed for the first time versus programs that are, being proposed as returning programs where faculty are coming back for a second or third year running the same program, and we're really just making alterations to a pre-existing program. So that's kind of why you see these two different buttons on our website. And so I just want to explain that. I think the other important thing to know is that the main difference between these processes is really just the number of steps involved. So the first time that you propose a program through UCA, you have to submit an abstract, which just gives us an idea of the program that you're wanting to do, where you're wanting to go. We'll talk a little bit more about that abstract today. Whereas if you've already proposed a program, we skip over that step and just go straight to any revisions to the itinerary and stuff like that. So the programs aren't drastically different. The returning one is just a little bit shorter as we cut out that initial kind of idea phase and go straight into, okay, we know what we're doing. Let's just make some changes. So we're going to focus a little bit more on the first time faculty side of things today, though, like I said, there's not drastic differences between them. The forms are the same. So it's just kind of like the order and the timeline. As a first-time faculty leader, or if you've led a program at a previous university, or maybe here at UCA, but this is the first time you're proposing this particular program, it's a new destination, it's a new itinerary, then this is the process that you would follow. So we break this process into 4 phases, and each phase has kind of a different purpose. So phase 1 is the most it's the first phase, and it's the one that's most imminent with our deadline for set for March 1st. We sent out our call for proposals just about 2 weeks ago with some of this information, but of course, on our website, you can find more, and we're going to get a little bit more into detail today. So, the very first step that we tell faculty, if they're thinking of proposing a program for the first time through UCA or thinking of proposing a new program, is to attend a faculty interest meeting. So, you're already here. And or schedule an appointment with our office. So even if you attend this meeting, maybe you want to meet with us a little bit more in depth about your program idea. Of course, you're welcome to do that. After this meeting, if you feel confident going forward with the abstract process, you're welcome to do that as well. But we definitely want to have some contact with you and at least go over this process before you jump right in. So then in phase 1, the 2 documents that we expect faculty to submit are an abstract that outlines the plan that the program that you're planning to lead, and the faculty approval form. So we'll take a look at each one of these more in depth. The faculty approval form is just a DocuSign form that is routed to your department chair and your college dean, and that gives them an idea. Basically, the concept behind this form is for them to be aware that you're proposing a program and give us their kind of written consent that they know this is happening and they're, approving it. The abstract is where we get a lot more detail about the program, but it's still kind of in its infancy. So when we take a look at that form, you'll see we're not looking for you to tell us how much it's going to cost. We're not looking for you to tell us, all of these details. We're really looking for the basics. We're looking for you to tell us where you're planning to go, tentative dates of the program, who is leading the program, what courses are going to be taught, at least vaguely, that kind of thing. So once that abstract is submitted, then our office will review all of the abstracts we've received, so yours and any others, after that March 1st deadline. And from mid to late March, that's where we get into phase 2. And our office is reaching out to the faculty leaders on all submitted abstracts to set up a time to meet either in person or virtually and review our feedback on your abstract. So it may be that we say, hey, the dates that you've chosen are really not ideal based on our experience running programs here at UCA. Or have you thought about this or this aspect of your program proposal? Or sometimes it can be something like, hey, you have this really short program, 2 weeks, but you're wanting students to go 8 different places. We would recommend that you cut that down a little bit because your cost is going to be really high having so many places in such a short time. So feedback like that we would give you based on your initial abstract. We're also going to be looking at things like, the country that you've chosen. Is this somewhere that complies with our travel policy and we can safely send students? Do we think that there's enough students that can support this program? All of those kinds of things. It's just going to be an initial review of the program. Okay, so I am going to just briefly show you what this abstract looks like. And we will kind of walk through that. Hopefully, I don't know if it's going to let me. Are you guys still able to see my screen? Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to put it in editing mode so we can see all of the questions without me having to go through and fill in. So basically, like I said, this is just going to be the essential information regarding the program. So a program title, this is tentative. It can absolutely change later in the process, but we want to get an idea of what's your concept. Location. Again, this can be just general. You could say, I want to go to Paris, France, and surrounding areas or something like that. Or it could be, I want to go to Germany, but I'm not sure where yet. But we do need to know at least a country. That's the very least that we need. You don't have to know the specific days that you're going to be specific places yet. Faculty leaders, titles, and departments. So we're looking to see, who are going to be leading your program. For our programs, we do require 2 faculty leaders for every program. And when we're looking for, when you're looking for a second faculty leader, it really can be beneficial to have someone from a very different department or very different background from you because you're pulling students from different areas on campus. So do keep that in mind. Obviously, your email, and then tentative dates of departure and return. Again, this is something that can change later, but we want to know, are you looking at like 2 weeks in May, a month from June to July? So we're, gauging the length of your program and kind of start and end dates. With this, we do find that May programs and June programs are the most popular. July is not a time that we run a lot of programs. We have, but it just doesn't tend to be as popular for students as May and June. And then we also ask for courses to be offered. We're not looking for a syllabi or anything like that yet, but just an idea of what courses you would want to teach on this program. And of course, if you can offer things that are lower division core or lower level, in addition to maybe some more specialized courses, we do find that that's very helpful in terms of getting the numbers where they need to be for enrollment. Okay, so then we get into your program details. So we're looking for a summary. What are you hoping to achieve on this program? This is broad, 200 words or less, but essentially you'd be telling us what's the focus of your program, vaguely what is your idea that you're hoping to accomplish through this, major highlights and learning objectives. With the estimated cost of program, we don't expect you, like I said, to build anything out at this point. We're not looking for you to give us like an itemized budget, but we're kind of looking to gauge in your head what you're shooting for, if that makes sense. Sometimes faculty will propose a program and they tell us on this abstract, yeah, I think the program's going to be $2,500 per student. And when we see that, we go, okay, we need to have a conversation about this because that's not realistic at all for a 3-week program in England, right? Something like that. So it's important for us to just see how much you're thinking this program would be in your mind and what you think would be accessible for students. We do have a sample budget and a budget template just for you to have an idea of what things are included in the budget. But again, we're not looking for you to set that up, really just to gauge kind of what cost you would consider in a program cost. And then also, how much do you think that students would need on top of the program? And this may be something that you don't really know at this point. You can tell us that, but we're really hoping to gather from your perspective, how much do you think students realistically need to go on this destination? Of course, that can be something that we'll finalize in working with the provider. And then in the last section, we're looking for you to reflect on our principles for high impact, high engagement programs. I'll show you where to find the full principles in a moment, but essentially, we want you to think about how are students going to meet and engage with local people. We don't want to have a program where students are just going as tourists and, seeing the lovely art and taking very Instagrammable photos and leaving. We really want them to have connections with the people in that place, whether it's professionals, whether it's other students, whether it's a local community, whatever it is, we want you to kind of explain how you think that your program is going to address that. And likewise, how they're going to connect with the place. Like, what is going to make them connect with this particular destination, right? We want them to leave with a special knowledge or connection to the place that they are. Again, something deeper than just a tourist would maybe get if they're going on a vacation, a holiday to a certain place. How are they going to really identify and connect with that place? It could be through people. Third-party provider or university partner. So we're looking to see if you've already identified a partner you want to work with, whether that's a university or a provider. We'll talk more about those two options. And then we're looking for you to confirm. This is just kind of a reminder. We only send students to level 1 and 2 destinations according to the U.S. State Department. Most destinations where faculty want to send students are levels 1 or 2. We can make some very, very specific exceptions for level 3 destinations, but generally we want you to be aware of that and know what level your destination is. And then looking at how would you control program price? Are there things that you have in mind to keep this program cost effective? And how will you prepare both to lead students and students to have a great experience on the program? So these are just points we want you to reflect on as you're preparing your abstract and your more, developed program proposal. So that's what the abstract looks like. The other form that I mentioned is this short-term study abroad faculty approval form. This is just a DocuSign. There's very little for you to do here other than to include your information and your faculty information or your chair and dean's information. And then you do have the option to upload documents. So if you want to upload like a basic itinerary or you want to upload your abstract, when you submit this abstract, you will receive a copy to your email. It's set up that way. So you could attach that to your form if you want your chair and your dean to have more information about the program you're proposing. But those are the two things that we want to see in phase one. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about anything that we've looked at so far before we continue? No? Okay.
No, this is great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so then we move to phase three. This is basically you've submitted your abstract, we've reviewed it, we've given you feedback, right? So that's all happening throughout the month of March. By April 1st, we want to have a more developed program proposal. So there's two documents that both faculty leaders, assuming you have two faculty leaders on your program, would need to submit. This is kind of looking forward, so I'm not going to go to the same level of detail on each of these as I did with the abstract, but I do want to make you aware. So the faculty data form is one where we're going to collect your emergency contact information. So each faculty leader would need to submit this, as well as a copy of your passport and a few other details just related to you, like as a human being. It's not really particular to the program, but it's something we keep on file. We do also collect in this a short bio, which is what we use when we're setting up our website, like for your program. So we ask that you submit like a little bio about yourself or about your travel experience, whatever, and then also the photo that you want to use on our website. But other than that, it's really just general contact and emergency information. The faculty guidelines is also a Google form that you read through and just submit. You have to like initial at the bottom and agreeing to them that you're understanding. You've read through them and you understand them, but there's nothing to submit there. It's just reading and signing. The very last thing is that program details form, and this is really like the more heavy lift of the three things, because here we're looking for a more detailed itinerary. So we do have an itinerary template that we ask that you use, which will break each day of the program down into morning, afternoon, and evening, and we're looking for you to kind of outline what are students doing throughout the day. There is an example as well on that itinerary form for you to look at, but essentially for us to be able to effectively work with our providers, we need to know, okay, day one, I would like to have a welcome lunch, and then I would like to have students just have some free time. Day two, I would like to have students go to this museum in the morning. I would like free time in the middle of the day. And then in the evening, I would like to have some space to do a discussion. Whatever. It would be, breaking it out each day what you would like to see. And this can be, of course, the more detail, the better, but there can be some areas where you don't necessarily know exactly what you want to do, and we can use our partner provider to kind of come up with ideas about what things would maybe students would benefit from. Providers and partners are great at finding guest lectures, identifying, experiences that relate to whatever subject area you're teaching in. So it doesn't have to be every second of the day mapped out, but just kind of any big experiences you're wanting to include, an idea of how you would want them all to fall together. And this is also where we would like to see course syllabi for the courses that you're planning to teach. Now, it could be that these are courses you already teach on campus and you're just sharing those syllabi with us, and maybe they need to be updated to reflect specifically the study abroad experience, or, it really depends from program to program. But this is kind of the point where we want to see that you kind of have an idea of how the itinerary is going to connect to the coursework. Of course, both of these things can be updated as we move forward. And the program details form, we only need one submission per program. So faculty can collaborate and decide who's going to submit that, or can work on it together, and submit, one person can submit, whereas the other two, we do need each faculty leader to submit. So then mid to late April, we will review your documents, all the documents that you've submitted at the beginning of April, and we will meet with you to review kind of everything that we have at this point. The itinerary, what we're going to be doing over the summer to budget for your program, to source providers, and to begin, advertising the program in the fall. So that will be the last phase, phase 4, which is really just before the end of the semester. And that's really before we kick things off full speed in the fall with advertising and recruiting for programs. Okay. So that's sort of the 4 phases. I will say this is the returning faculty leaders kind of schedule. It only has 2 phases really as compared to 4. So they're going to submit all of those documents that you had to submit minus the abstract and all at once. So all of those are due by April 1st for returning faculty. And then likewise, we'll meet with faculty mid to late April to review all of their documents. But it's sort of an abridged version or a condensed version of what you'll be doing as first-time faculty leaders. And this is just kind of an overview that I think is important for faculty, especially first-time faculty, to understand, which is what do we expect faculty leaders to do versus what does our office take on in terms of planning a program. So we expect our faculty leaders to choose a location and decide on a partner or a provider. Of course, our office will help identify and suggest potential partners or providers in a given location, but ultimately the decision of which provider to work with is up to the faculty. The faculty also have to develop a detailed itinerary, including the length of the program, the site visits they want to do, arrival and departure dates, the courses that will be offered. Those are decisions that must be made by the faculty leaders. Our office will then, of course, work with the provider that's been chosen by the faculty to coordinate the program and bring this kind of vision to life. We are the ones who do the full kind of recruiting process. We accept all student applications, process all student applications. That's all something that's coming through our office. But we do need to understand very clearly what the faculty's vision is for the program in order to make sure that the provider can make that happen. And then, of course, relay that to the students when we're meeting with them and advertising the program. And then we also work with our flight coordinator to find budget-friendly flight options. And the faculty are the ones who will, ultimately approve the flight that we choose. But we also need faculty to submit all program-related documentation in a timely manner and, of course, respond to requests for approval in a timely manner. So when we're saying, here's the flight that we have, what do you think? Usually we only have about 24 hours to make a decision on that flight before, we have to start from square one again. Our office will work with the providers to develop the program budget. Of course, you collaborate in that process. If you say, oh, that's more than I want the program to be, we can cut back or make decisions. But we are the ones that develop the budget for the program, produce the documentation that students receive regarding the program costs and what's included, and publish that online. And then we also, we'll give feedback and support on any questions you have related to the program. Although any questions or any matters related to the coursework or the academic aspects of the program are really up to faculty's discretion. The only other responsibility of faculty leaders is, of course, to seek approval for your program through your department and your college. Any questions about this aspect? If there's anything that's unclear about maybe what we would handle or what we expect faculty to handle, or all good so far? Good? Okay, great. This is just an overview of the programs that we have going this summer to give you an idea. You can find more information about these programs and get an idea of what a web page looks like what is the information that we put on our website and we provide to students. All of that is on our website right now. But you can see from these 4 programs that what I said about our programs being concentrated really in May and June, that's kind of visible here with these 4 programs. You can also see that our programs are concentrated in Europe. We are always hoping and excited about having programs outside of Europe. So if that's something that you're interested in, that's great as well. But that gives you an overview of what we have going on for summer 2025. And then kind of one of the key things that you may have heard coming up so far is the concept of having a partner or a provider to run the program. So for every one of these programs that you see here, and every program that we run, faculty, obviously, besides needing a co-leader, they need to identify a program provider or a partner. So a partner would be any one of our universities around the world that we work with and we have a contract with. So this is a list of all of those. Obviously, there are some gaps, so that's where a provider can be really helpful because if you want to run a program in, let's say, Vietnam, we don't have a provider, or we don't have a partner there. So we would look towards a provider to help fill in that gap. Or if you wanted to, run a program in a specific city, sometimes these colleges that we partner with are kind of located outside of major cities and they can't provide support if you're wanting to go, let's say, to Paris or to, Berlin, something like that. So it can be helpful to work with a provider. But we always do try to incorporate our partners whenever possible. It provides students with a great experience. And then, of course, if they wanted to go back and do a whole semester abroad, then they're kind of familiar already with these campuses. So do want to let you know that these all exist, but the other option, of course, are our providers. And this is, a list of some of the providers that we've worked with before and the kind of regions they work in. We do have a more detailed list on our website that outlines exactly what countries each provider works in. And just generally for customized faculty-led programming, that's something that all of these providers specialize in, and they are really able to take your itinerary and build a program from that. So this can be a really user-friendly way to get into faculty-led programs. I would say if you have an idea and you're looking for guidance about where to go, because you can see almost all the providers offer programs in Europe, for example. If you're looking for, guidance on that, that's something we can definitely help you with. We've worked with almost all of these providers. And so we can give you feedback on who we've seen to be the most user-friendly, or some are more expensive than others in general. So we can give you that kind of detail as well. But like I said, there is a more detailed list that I'll show you how to access momentarily. Certain providers focus on certain regions, like for programs in Africa, we love working with EduAfrica, or Maximo Nivel works in Latin America. And then there are others like IES, or World Endeavors, World Strides, AIFS that are really, they work globally, although there are certain countries that they may or may not work in. So that's something to take into consideration when you're looking for a provider. Okay. So that's just something to keep in mind. You would usually choose either a partner or a provider. If you go with a provider, you could incorporate a visit to a partner if that was something that you wanted students to have as well. And this is just, like I said, there's a more list that breaks it down more like place to place. And then again, just our 6 Ps. This was something that you saw referenced in that abstract. So it's something that I do want to spend just a few minutes on. If our AVP, Dr. Bailey, were here, I know he would spend a ton of time talking about the 6 Ps. This is something that he's developed and he's really passionate about. So I'll try to do it justice. But essentially, he designed the 6 Ps as a way to kind of explain to potential faculty leaders keys to high impact, high engagement programs. How can we not only get students abroad and get them to different cities, but ensure that the programs that we design are impactful and, maintain student engagement? So we already talked about partners. That's a key one, having a good, strong partner that can help you design a very effective program. But aside from that, we also have people. And these are things that you're going to, in your abstract, assuming you want to move forward with an abstract, you would want to focus on each of these 6 areas. And that's something that we'll request. So people is one. We want to balance, each participant's desire to sightsee with the opportunity to engage with the local people and local culture. So that's something that we find really important. We don't want to just have like a vacation for students. We want them to also really engage and get something out of the program as a global citizen and academically, in their area of study. One of the ways that we can do that is providing some basic language lessons if you're not going to an English-speaking country, so that they are able to engage with people even at a basic level who may not speak English. We also, encourage faculty to look for service learning opportunities related to their area of study, or partnering with a local NGO. It could be just a one-day service learning opportunity, but that does allow students to engage with the local community and understand these kind of issues that are pervasive worldwide. And then obviously including time in the itinerary for reflection and debriefing. That's something that we'll talk more about with the last P, but that can also help students connect more with the people and the culture when they have time to reflect upon the things that they've seen, especially if they're going somewhere that may have more marked cultural differences, as compared to the US. Place, we already talked about, it's very important that we have a location that's level 1 or 2. So essentially, that's going to be most countries that you would be considering taking students to, but you can always check this on the US State Department's travel advisory website. And then another thing that we really recommend is choosing a base location. So this is something that may not be obvious, but choosing a location where students are going to spend the vast majority of their time, and then from there designing day trips or giving students weekend, excursions. But one of the things that we can most easily do to reduce program costs is to not have students go from place to place to place. If we have students 2 days in Madrid, 3 days in Barcelona, 4 days in Paris, 3 days in Amsterdam, that's how you get a program. That's $10,000, which, as I'm sure you probably know, is not the type of program that our students can generally afford. So we're really looking for something that's very cost effective. Of course, we want students to see things, but if we can have them spend the night in the same place as much as possible with day trips and excursions outside of that one hub, that can be great. 2 places can work as well, but really trying to minimize the number of times we have students moving accommodations is ideal. Yes, and then outside of just like the cost, it also increases participant for fatigue. Students can tend to get tired if they're having to shuffle around like that, and risk. Um, Obviously, another thing, being mindful of programs proposed in similar destinations. We have had the situation before where we've had 3 or 4 programs all proposed to the same country, and that can create a difficulty for us. If we do find ourselves in that situation, we'll usually have a conversation with all faculty proposing programs to look at, how we can consolidate. But keeping that in mind when you're thinking about where you want to propose. Finally, staying in one place, it really allows students to explore the neighborhood and connect with locals more than they would if they were just, traveling for like, family vacation. So we think that that's important. We talked a lot about partners, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it can really be effective in terms of managing the budget. Of course, ensuring a good student experience, safety and security of the group on the ground. And, if you're looking for example, a discussion space or a space to have dedicated class time, if that's something that you want, then having a partner will really help us with organizing those things. Outside of that, this kind of goes back to safety, protecting the participants. That's the 4th P. So we obviously want to choose locations strategically. Having that third-party support helps us to do that. Reducing language barriers as much as possible helps us to do that. And then in our office, we're monitoring communication from the US State Department and other kind of advisory councils to ensure that we're aware of any ongoing issues. And then price is the 5th P. We want to try to keep the price as manageable as possible for students because at the end of the day, this is somewhat of a numbers game. So if we have programs that are too small, we're not able to make them work. And we want to keep that price at a point where it's accessible to enough students that we can support a program. So, we can do that by keeping itineraries manageable and having supportive third-party providers. The very last P is prepare and processing. So this is kind of like the bookends of your program. Setting students up for success by preparing them before they go with information about the destination, about the culture, maybe readings that target the destination and whatever content you're wanting them to learn while abroad. And then on the back end, while they're there, having reflection sessions where they can kind of debrief and think about some of the things that they're experiencing related to the culture that they may not have been prepared for or that may be different from what they were expecting. So that's very important, I think, to having students not only be engaged, but really understand and process what they're experiencing makes them have makes your program more impactful for the students when they have those conversations that are more deep about, what they're experiencing, what they're seeing, and compare it to their previous experiences. So those are the 6 Ps kind of in a nutshell. Like I said, there is a document that we can, of course, share and provide more information about any of these things. And then, yeah, this is the last page. And of course, I'll share this slideshow with you all and those who were not able to join us. But this just goes over some of the policies that faculty often have questions about and other resources that you can use. So just briefly going over these, you can access our drug and alcohol policy related to both students and faculty leaders, our accompanying family policy. If faculty frequently want to take family with them on their programs, that's something that we address with this policy. Our travel policy is also here, and you can find it on our website. Other resources like standards of good practice and our 6Ps are linked here, questions you might want to consider when designing a program. We do offer an Education Abroad Development Grant, which is some limited funding that our office can provide for faculty who are wanting to conduct a site visit before actually taking students abroad. So that's something that I know Allison, Valerie, that you're working with on that program, she was able to take advantage of that development grant to go and visit the university in Northern Ireland before actually taking students. So that is something that we do offer, especially if faculty are taking students to a destination that they're not really familiar with, or maybe to a partner that they haven't met before. We also have our faculty handbook and our compensation policy. That's something that faculty often have questions about. So the policy itself and a chart where you can kind of calculate more or less what you can expect to receive in terms of payment for the courses that you teach abroad. All of that information is on our website and then also linked here on the slideshow. So you can review that at your leisure. I think we'll just finish up with like 10 minutes for questions and just more discussion related to anything that you have after seeing this slideshow. So yeah, any questions or topics that you would like to hear more about?
I'm good. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining us, Vaughn. It was great to see
Yeah, I've been here the whole time. I've just been lurking about.
incognito. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I saw you join. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to make time to join us. Do you have anything to add as an experienced faculty leader? Anything that you think is important to know?
I think I definitely learned this year it's really important to have someone from outside your department. We didn't make this year. We had both people in my department, two people from my department, but it's also really important to start now, like start building up interest and talking to students and also something I noticed this time around is that students are definitely we got it pretty low, but students are very cost wary. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no,
all I got.
yeah, thank you. No, I think that's a great perspective. I appreciate you endorsing my recommendation of going with a second person from outside of your
Yeah, I heard you say that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, it is kind of at the end of the day, there is a certain number that we're looking for. Normally, we say we would like to get 8 to 12 students
Yep.
per faculty, and that can be very difficult to achieve here at UCA. So
Yes.
that's why we find it can be really, helpful if you have students from two different departments that are attracted to the program.
Yes.
Yeah. Valerie, Towino, any questions from you guys?
I have a quick question. Do faculty ever partner with another faculty member who works at a different college?
I've gotten this question before, and the answer is it's possible. We haven't seen it yet. I have something in the works for this November, or this October. So my answer may soon change. And this is kind of like the first time that we're working on that. So we have an OT program, occupational therapy program that goes to Tanzania, and we're working with a faculty member from another university to bring some students on that program from her university. Logistically, there's virtually no reason why we can't do something like this. Obviously, for the students that you would teach, you would be the instructor of record, and then the other group of students, they would get course credit through their home university typically. Or what we could do is have them sign up as a student here at UCA, and we could get them course credit through you or through that faculty member if they from the other university if they were working as like an adjunct just for the purposes of study abroad. We have had faculty do that who are retired from UCA, haven't seen it from another university yet. So there's different setups that could make sense. Of course, the students would pay the program fees no matter what through us if we're the ones orchestrating it. But in terms of the actual course credit, that's where, we would have to look at who's going to be the instructor. Could it be the UCA faculty for all the students, or do we need that other person to also be kind of on the books as an instructor as well? We have had students from other universities join our programs, and that's not an issue. So, like I said, it's more of just a question of looking at that other university and what they're hoping to get out of it and making it work with what we have going on. But yeah, definitely a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
What's the usual cost for the students? Is it more than what they pay for the UCA or almost same?
Yeah, great question. So when we're looking at summer programs, the cost for so there's two costs for students. Students will pay tuition for the actual courses that they're taking, and then they're going to pay a program fee. The program fee is going to cover things like accommodations abroad, activities, transportation, all of that kind of stuff. Airfare, I didn't say that. Airfare. So for these summer programs, most of the time, if a student's taking a UCA course on campus, the study abroad tuition rate is a little bit cheaper. They'll pay $840 for 3 hours of undergraduate credit. For graduate credit, it's a little bit closer to, I think, 900 and change. I'd have to double check on that. But so let's say $900 for 3 hours of credit. But then the program fee, which is highly dependent on location and length of program. So for example, we have like a 10-day program in Latin America. That program runs about $3,000. But we have a 1-month program in Italy. That program's about $7,000. So there's really a range of pricing depending on, where students are wanting to go for how long. That varies. The cost of actually the tuition doesn't change. It's standard no matter what subject they're taking courses in, as long as it's a study abroad course. Of course, for students, the summer, that's one of the challenges that we face is that in the summer they're not eligible for as much scholarship as they are in the fall and the spring. So students may sometimes do like our semester exchange programs, which is kind of like a whole different bag of cards. But with that, students can use a lot more of their scholarship and grant money and things like that. And it is more comparable to what they would pay here at UCA. But, as you probably know, for those summer courses, they can get Pell Grant if they're Pell Grant eligible, but academic scholarships don't cover summer classes. And that's the same with our study abroad program. Students are mainly paying out of pocket or using scholarships that are specifically for study abroad to help offset the cost of the programs.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I think that was a great question. That's one of the main reasons that the cost is so important when we're, planning programs is that if we plan a program and it's $8,000, that means that there's a high percentage of students that have to find $8,000. It's not like they can rely on, an academic scholarship to cover a portion of it as they would in the fall or the spring. So there are some study abroad scholarships, and we have a lot of information on that on our website, but we offer some through our office that students can get specifically for UCA students. And then I also advise for some national scholarships for Pell Grant eligible students. They can get up to $5,000. So as you're planning a program, do know that even if you have students that maybe have lower resources than other students, they could still participate as long as they apply for those resources, and we can help them with that process. But still, the lower we can keep the price, of course, the further those resources go in helping them cover their expenses. So, yeah, I think that's probably all. So I'm going to quit sharing screen and I'm going to